Super Typhoon Regassa, predicted to be the world's strongest storm of 2025, made landfall in the northern Philippines on Monday, September 22nd, triggering massive flooding, landslides, and mass evacuations. The storm formed in the western Pacific Ocean on September 18th and rapidly strengthened to a Category 5, with winds reaching 295 kilometers per hour as it made landfall on Panuitan Island in Cagayan Province. As the storm made landfall, skies darkened and winds began to howl. The storm's radius reached more than 320 kilometers, covering much of northern Luzon. 3 people were reported dead, 5 others missing, and more than 17,500 residents were forced to evacuate. One victim was an elderly man buried by a mudslide in Benguet, while 2 others died in Calayan and Tuba. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. immediately declared a full state of alert. Government and school activities were suspended in 29 provinces. Domestic flights were canceled, and ferries and fishing boats were banned. In Apayao, more than 1,200 residents sought refuge in emergency shelters. The Cagayan disaster chief stated that his team was preparing for the worst-case scenario, while highlighting a flood control project scandal currently under investigation by the government. The Philippine Meteorological Agency, PAGASA, warned of potential tidal flooding exceeding 3 meters along the coasts of Cagayan, Batanes, and Ilocos. Power was cut off on Calayan Island and Apayao province. While roads were cut off, trees were uprooted, and homes were severely damaged. After crossing the Philippines, Regassa moved westward toward Taiwan and southern China. In Taiwan, a natural dam collapsed in Guangfu Township, killing 14 people and leaving more than 150 missing. In Hong Kong, the storm caused coastal flooding and property damage. More than 885 residents were displaced, 100 were hospitalized, and 393 trees were uprooted. Hong Kong's airport was closed for 36 hours, and train services in Guangdong were suspended. China evacuated more than 2 million residents in Guangdong province. Shenzhen relocated 400,000 coastal residents, and Guangzhou prepared to issue a red alert. Economic losses from Regassa are estimated to reach billions of dollars. In Macau, casinos were closed and the tourism sector was paralyzed. In the Philippines, the storm exacerbated social inequality and exposed the weaknesses of the infrastructure system. A scandal over an allegedly fictitious flood control project came to the fore. Residents demanded transparency and reform of disaster mitigation policies. "We lost not only our homes, but also our trust," said an Apari resident. According to NASA Earth Observatory and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, JTWC, Regassa became the world's strongest typhoon this year due to a combination of high ocean temperatures, high atmospheric humidity, and minimal wind shear. The minimum pressure was recorded below 900 HPA, and the storm's diameter exceeded 300 kilometers. This phenomenon strengthens scientists' arguments that climate change has increased the intensity of tropical cyclones in the Pacific. The Philippines, as the first country to experience the cyclone belt, has become a living laboratory for the impacts of the climate crisis. Super Typhoon Regassa was created by an extreme combination of atmospheric and oceanic conditions that were highly conducive to the formation of a powerful tropical storm. The storm formed in the western Pacific Ocean, where sea surface temperatures reached over 30 degrees Celsius. Heat from the ocean provided the storm's primary energy source, strengthening convection systems and accelerating the growth of storm clouds. The moist atmosphere, particularly in the lower and middle troposphere, allowed for the formation of large cumulonimbus clouds. This moisture reinforced the cycle of latent heat release as water vapor condensed, which strengthened the low pressure at the storm center. Regassa likely originated from a tropical disturbance or atmospheric wave moving from the east. When this disturbance encountered warm ocean conditions and a moist atmosphere, it began to rotate and form a low-pressure system. Low wind shear also played a key role. Wind shear is the difference in wind speed and direction at different altitudes. For a tropical storm to grow strong, wind shear must be low. In Regassa's case, atmospheric conditions were very stable, allowing the storm's structure to remain intact and symmetrical, allowing it to rapidly increase in intensity. The Earth's rotation, or Coriolis effect, helps spin low-pressure systems into tropical cyclones. Because Regassa formed at a latitude far enough from the equator, the Coriolis effect was strong enough to form an organized storm vortex. Regassa experienced rapid intensification in less than 24 hours. This occurred because the ocean's energy was immense, the atmosphere was very moist and stable. There were no external disturbances such as wind shear or dry air, and the storm structure was highly symmetrical. The minimum pressure was recorded below 900 HPA, and the storm's diameter exceeded 300 kilometers. This phenomenon reinforces scientists' argument that climate change has increased the intensity of tropical storms globally. Warming oceans increase the energy potential, and a more humid atmosphere strengthens storms. Regassa is a clear example of this trend. Storms that are stronger, form more quickly, and are more destructive. Typhoon Regassa was more than just a storm. It reflected fragile systems, resilient societies, and pressing global challenges. Amid the devastation, solidarity emerged. Citizens helped each other, volunteers stepped in, and local communities became the front line. But this storm also demanded change. The Philippines needs to strengthen its early warning system, improve its infrastructure, and crack down on corruption in mitigation projects. Regassa is a reminder that disasters are not just about nature, but also about governance. As Regassa's winds subside and the skies begin to clear, the Philippines stands at a crossroads, between trauma and hope, between destruction and development. This storm may have passed, but its lessons must continue to resonate. Regassa has written a new chapter in Asia's disaster history. Now, it's our job to write the next chapter, one of resilience, justice, and a safer future. Meanwhile, Tropical Cyclone Opong, known internationally as Bualoi, is moving rapidly over the Philippine Sea and is expected to make landfall in the Bicol region on Friday, September 26, 2025. This is the 15th tropical cyclone to hit the Philippines this year and is showing signs of strengthening to typhoon status. Opong is currently located about 815 kilometers northeast of Mindanao with sustained winds of 95 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 115 kilometers per hour. The storm is moving northwest at about 20 kilometers per hour and is expected to make landfall in less than 2 days. The Philippine Meteorological Agency, PAGASA, warned that Opong will bring heavy rains, strong winds, and the potential for major flooding and landslides to Luzon and the Visayas. Areas most at risk include Sorsogon, Northern Samar, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Albay, and Masbate. Rainfall is expected to exceed 200 millimeters in 24 hours in some of these areas. Sea waves are also expected to reach up to 3 meters along the east coast, triggering tidal flood warnings and posing a danger to fishing vessels. Sea crossings in Northern Samar have been suspended since Wednesday, September 24th, and the Coast Guard has warned all vessels to remain in port. The Department of the Interior and Local Government, DILG, has placed all local government units in Luzon and the Visayas on high alert. The Operation Listo warning system has been activated, with 24 provinces under Category Charlie or Red Alert, including Metro Manila, Bataan, Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, and Quezon. In Northern Samar, 24 municipalities have prepared food packages and evacuation shelters. The provincial disaster management chief stated that almost all areas in the province are at high risk of flooding due to its low-lying topography and easily swollen rivers. Typhoon Opong is expected to make landfall in the Bicol region on Friday morning or afternoon, then cross southern Luzon toward the South China Sea. Although the storm may weaken as it passes over land, forecasters predict it will regain strength once it reaches the western waters of the Philippines. If its track remains consistent, the storm could impact Metro Manila late Friday night into Saturday morning, with heavy rains and strong winds potentially causing urban flooding and power outages. The threat from Opong comes as many Filipinos remain in evacuation centers following the impact of Super Typhoon Regassa, which struck earlier this week. Thousands of homes were damaged, and drainage systems in several cities have not yet fully recovered. The Defense Secretary has called corruption in flood relief projects a criminal act after the discovery of fictitious projects that failed to protect residents. The government is now facing public pressure to improve disaster mitigation systems and expedite aid distribution. Meanwhile, local communities are showing solidarity by opening their homes to evacuees and organizing community kitchens. Typhoon Opong formed from a tropical disturbance in the western Pacific Ocean and strengthened due to high ocean temperatures and high atmospheric moisture. The lack of wind shear allowed the storm structure to remain intact and symmetrical, accelerating its intensification. Scientists warn that climate change has increased the frequency and intensity of tropical cyclones in the Pacific. The Philippines, as a country located in the cyclone belt, is one of the most vulnerable countries to the impacts of extreme storms. Typhoon Opong has yet to make landfall, but its impact is already being felt. From shipping suspensions to mass evacuation preparations, the Philippines is once again being tested by the power of nature. But behind the threat lies hope that solidarity, preparedness, and policy reform can strengthen community resilience. This storm may pass, but the lessons it brings must be the foundation for a safer and more equitable future.